Hey everybody, Casey Wallace back here at the portal to the Ascension conference. So just to give you an insight, we actually already did an interview. The mics weren't working, so we're going to have another conversation and invite you in. Travis is an extraordinary young man who is turning his life's work into providing tangible insight on solutions to transform our environment, our economy, our consciousness, and the way we live tangibly here on the Earth, right? Tell everybody your name and what you do.
My name is Travis Duncan, and I am here, and my mission, my purpose has been committed to the way I frame as the liberation of humanity and getting in tune with the reality as our planet is, which is of absolute abundance.
Absolute abundance.
And vitality, the natural urge of life force is vitality. And our systems, our blanket that has been put over as a spell, which is the currency, which is based on scarcity, distracts us from that pure abundance. And so that's the reason, that's the origin, that's the why, is to reharmonize and to help us understand that there are ways, very simple things we can do, just in our communities, in our society, to make that happen.
Everybody has talked about the earth changing, the wave of consciousness that's here, or maybe that's been here for a while, that the changes are coming, but nobody's really talking about a tangible plan and application for that. It seems to be this kind of up here hopeful idea, but very few people, I shouldn't say no, very few people are saying, okay, that is absolutely applicable. Okay, this isn't a fantasy. I know I was having a conversation with some people.
That's my living?
They're very conservative, and they're like, oh yeah, those woo-woo hippies just figure that we can change things, but that's just not real. And I thought, wow, that's a very strong mentality on it. But you have found, with Michael Tellinger's help, also philosophy, but tangible application. You actually ran for mayor of the city of Austin to implement this concept, right?
Yes.
So let's talk about that.
And specifically with that, with the idea of politics, and there's a lot of references to that famous Buckminster Fuller book, which is you can't change the system by fighting against it. You build an entirely new system. And I'm paraphrasing.
I love that.
Well, and a new way of thinking is that we can actually come to the world of politics. A new consciousness in the political space is also a new system. And so it's easy to think of it as like we need to go build this entirely new infrastructure of where people live, how people engage right now. Just an entirely new thing. Whereas many of us live in the cities, and many of us are clamoring for that connection, and so it's in this field of possibility that people want, and so I think coming to politics that way is going to be helpful to us, because imagine if
We can't just drop politics at this time. Nobody's going to do that, right? I mean, so you're right. You have to change it. You have to use it as a platform for a shift, right? Because too many people rely on it, even though they don't like it. Okay, they don't like what it's doing. But it's that familiar thing. It's almost like the bad habit. I know that smoking is bad for me, but I just can't stop, right? And politics are that way. We've gotten, I think, a broad spectrum is whether you're Democratic or Republican or maybe independent, okay? We know it's not working, okay? It's very clear that it's not working, that it's mostly gotten, no matter where you sit, full of toxicity. But then we'd say, well, why don't we just get rid of politics? And they're like, oh, but we can't do that, right?
Well, and this is why I like to say, be polis, not politics, and because polis, the origin of the word really just means the city, the people. politics and public policy is really just our agreement field of how we come to interact in our society, and it's that binary choice field that makes the whole secretiveness of it, because the secrecy is what really, that's why I always say is the first imperative. Because look, okay, so let's say, 10,000 people of this consciousness and this awareness of what's really going on in the planet run for mayor, somebody gets elected, right? So now someone's elected. What's the first thing to do is establish a system to where those traditional tools cannot make the easiest wounds into the commitment of that person that was just elected. Because the commitment of that person being elected is paramount. And so transparency, accountability, everything public.
Yeah, because nobody understands politics.
Yeah.
We really don't. Okay, I'm going to say that, of course, because I don't want to even understand it. But the concepts, like you said, the fear is so deep, but because of the secrecy and the mystery, okay, and transparency. I know that living a transparent life can have its challenges until it doesn't, until it is so spectacular you wouldn't have transparent living concepts in a community, structure, wellness across the planet. That's that heaven that's really kind of right? Tangibly, absolutely, in the three-dimensional world, in our life, right?
Yes. And that physical world experience is so important, because that's, at the end of the day, even the people that, they're at the end of the day, so we ran 2018, we got 3% of the vote, and there was 6,500 something votes, so it was nearly 7,000 people that I didn't personally meet. I didn't know these people. We did a lot of forums, and there's these people out there who really believe in this and saw something. That all these people, even all those people, I gotta go to work now. This sounds great, but I gotta go to work now. I gotta feed my kids. Sorry, I don't have that much time. I'm down with you. I'll vote for you. So that again demonstrates why getting people who are into this and see these possibilities of vitality and abundance for all people. Let's be clear what we're talking about. We're talking about absolute abundance and vitality for all people, and that goes back to the spirit of Ubuntu. Really is we are only as strong as the weakest among us.
This concept, Travis, they've been proven, right? I mean, pretty much. As far as research goes, you can research civilizations, it's there, right?
Well, that a lot of people say, name me an example in history of when this has happened. And frankly, first of all, we don't know that really much of what really happened.
I was going to say, who's history writing?
Who's history, right? So that's, there are some things we know, and yes, we have seen a lot of conflict and strife. But look at the planet itself, how perfectly harmonious and absolutely abundant it is. And why is that humanity, supposedly as our mythology tells us, is the pinnacle of this planet, the highest being, why are we the only ones that pay to live on the planet? Why are we the only ones that confuse ourselves into a state of abundance thinking and abundance behavior? Because of that abundance thinking turned into words, turned into creation, into the cells of what actually manifests in the dimension we experience. And so it's time that we see politics, the organization of our city, as perhaps the utmost imperative. This is the thing we need to all be focusing on the most, in terms of, okay, let's get something in there that's going to actualize the opportunity for us, because we will come for 3 hours on a weekend and participate on a farm together, or clean up the streets together, or build eco-villages for the homeless together, or build install new energy technologies and clean water, free water stations, and all of these projects that will increase the vitality of the people and are simultaneously being transferred into the ownership collectively of the cooperative in a decentralized trust. And I know that's a lot, but really it's essentially right now we've we've turned public good and social services into this centralized corporate-owned government aspect of that.
Sure.
Well, what would the peoples that we created aspect be? And then going back to, we're just having public policy that is geared at incentivizing cooperation, love, unity, vitality for all people, and harmonizing with the natural abundance of the planet. So that every person, the floor is absolute abundance. That's where everyone starts from. Not because we're getting money from a central bank and paying for those commodities. We've decommodified into the just everythingness that is.
We spent some time on an island in South America off the coast of Honduras. Boat access on the island called and on this island, we filmed a series actually, and we got to spend time on this island. Now this is a boat access only island, okay? And this is only a 4.5-mile island, okay? So these people don't have somebody to come clean up their beaches, okay? These people don't have, there's many things they don't have, and you're right, the community that works together because, okay? And the type of people these people are, okay? They don't steal from each other. They don't hurt each other. In fact, they tend to be a little bit protective of people coming onto the island because it's like, we basically don't even have any police walking around this island, okay? And they say, well, because we all work together, why wouldn't we, right? We live on an island, okay? Right, well, everything's an island if you look across the earthship because everything's got water around it, right? No matter how you govern that in your head, okay? It's back to taking care of your environment, supporting the people. People, it's not about the money, although there is money needed, and you're right, they use money for some things, but there's a lot of growing that goes on. There's a lot of sharing that goes on. There's a gentleman on the island that we've become very good friends with. Ron kind of runs the store and some different things, but one of the coolest things about Ron is he goes out and he fishes and he gets a swordfish, and the whole community comes and he's dividing that thing up just because that's the way it is, okay? And I watched this. This is a supposed third world undeveloped mentality people, right? And that's like, yeah, how does that work? Right.
These terms, and they're so subtle how they influence, but what a blessing it is that you get to experience this, and we get to experience all these different cultures and way of understanding, and they're very ancient, and it's funny because every time that we go places and talk about this, somebody always stands up, if not multiple people, saying, there's a place I went to where I see this, and I see this already. And the next step of that, the next phase of that, is then that way, that consciousness, that way of being is very beneficial to the rest of humanity. And how is that community going to share itself with the world? And this is what the internet really helps us understand in such an accelerated way. Well, we got the internet. Wow. Now look at how we can communicate. And this is just the most basic form of it, because there's other technology that would be also beneficial for our biofields. And so this is the other thing too, is getting back to, okay, where did these decisions happen? On that island, in that town. This is why one small town is such a beautiful concept from the Ubuntu contributions, because it's like, your local community is in charge, because money does nothing, actually. People do everything. So what are we going to decide to do as these people who live here? Who are we going to decide to be? And that's also, again, these education systems. For example, and I think it's important to start thinking about it. How would this translate to policy? Actual policy. In Texas, there's a big struggle between the states and municipalities in terms of who's education, who's controlling education, where the funds go, all these things. And one of the things that we were saying is, the state cannot dictate the vitality of the children of our community. We are going to assert Austin's sovereignty over the wellness and education of our children to allow them to be able to maximize the fullest self and be truly vital. You know, there's one or two world-class schools in Austin, right? Where they know all the new ways of raising healthy, vibrant people. And then the rest get screwed over. Why? Excuse me. Why are we allowing that to happen? It is actually a matter of, if you want to get like, American, it's a constitutional right.
Right.
And also it's natural law.
Right.
And so these are really important things that we have to say. Guess what? If an organization tries to make this effort, they're going to be up against the wolves. Excuse me, but if we become the whale collectively, and we are the mayor and the council, because we all run together. Actually, that's the next plan. So if you're in Austin and you want to run for council in 2020 actually, and 2022, that would be a great thing to do. And what we will do next time is run as a block. 6 of us running on a unified platform, because then you have, this is what we can get done. You know, because we have these methods of consensus. This is the other thing we need new tools of consensus. Thinking about full sovereignty consensus rather than majority rules. Because these 11 people that work on the council don't have enough time in the day. They're trying to keep up with their lives. Right? And so, you know, how do we know they're not, thinking about their whatever? Well, the people come up to the dais and pour their heart out onto begging them to change, to do something. You know, and they have to get 6 out of 11, or the majority. They gotta, and so it's like, okay, wait a second. Why are we doing it this way? We need new tools, and this is also why expanding the way we think about things that are coming, like the AI. The AI trains coming. It's like, wait a second. Excuse me. It's tapping into the same field. It's electricity. And we could actually build it a different way, by the way. We could build the fundamental bio hardware that taps into the field and is a partner in consciousness to us.
Well, we've said, we had a conversation on the council, and Julius was kind of talking about this. We just had this conversation. Artificial intelligence is not a problem, it's a person programmed. Technology is not our enemy, it's the mindset behind it. It's bringing the consciousness equal. We're kind of power balance that. But the great thing is this. You can just choose to be a higher consciousness person and start to work on it. That's the coolest thing.
Yes.
Okay? You don't have to wait for anything. You don't have to be like, this is going to come in another time, right? It's like tomorrow you can start really working on it. Right? Yeah, and interfacing these tangible concepts.
And that is so key, because then people get engaged. And all we're saying right now, actually in policy, this is actually non-disruptive policy making too, because all you're doing is creating a parallel track that incentivizes people who contribute to the vitality of the collective. Right? And so 3% of the population would be great to get started just doing that. If those 6,500 people, if we had their mailing list, that's not how it works. You don't get contact information, receipts. We also have a weird way of voting. This shame-oriented. I have to hide from each other, and because of majority rules paradigm, and because it's a jolting system, and so it's all. There's so much that we can create and think about together.
Well, and we do create. The question is, it's redirecting our state of awareness of that which we are, because we are creative beings. Okay, you're creating your reality. You're creating everything in your life if you want to get into the higher philosophy of consciousness. Okay, so that's good news. So you're already doing something. It's not like, well, I got to learn how to do that. It's like, no. We just need to make you aware and learn how to redirect. What is so empowering empowering about that, that we talked about, tapped into on our last conversation, is that self-worth component. We get self-worth in our life, we get satisfaction in our life, we get compassion in our life. And that's, we believe, of course, ultimately souls came down here to do share, to give the super cool business that they are, right? Not to just continually be detached and interfere. I mean, and wouldn't it be awesome to not only put that back in your life, or perhaps for the first time, but the children, the grandchildren, the great-grandchildren, all that stuff. Right? And like I said, we don't have to, we're not asking you to do something you're not already doing. We're asking you to redirect, reconceptualize that which you've already mastered. So that's kind of a cool permission of empowerment that you guys already know how to do, right? Let's just get you recalibrated a little bit.
And that coming full circle is really to the earlier point about those who can see and those who like to say that those who see what they see is not correct and not possible or not feasible. Because it is a multi-generational commitment. And our first phase is the water, food, energy, housing, healthcare, transportation, telecommunications, everything for people to live fully and vibrantly and get around and interact and engage with each other. Those fundamental things, one by one, in our society, all of a sudden there's no more water bill. All of a sudden there's no more electric bill. All of a sudden being our building together. And then when we start to lower those rungs, then we're a resilient community against potential volatilities in the way we understand. This is the crazy thing. The stock market has crashed, and now people are dying because of starvation.
Right.
What?
Right.
What is going on? That's so strange.
Right.
Just to put it very kindly and lightly. And so why are we allowing these perceived market fluctuations to change the vitality of a local community?
It reminds me of the robot in Lost in Space. Run, young Will Robinson, danger, danger. You know, and everybody's like, oh my God, I'm not sure what just happened. But now I'm in complete reaction and downturn, right?
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
And it's because we've been trained by that. It's all a reaction to that. And that's another thing that's so beautiful. Once you get that done, then that next generation who inherits that system becomes a much higher, more flourished version of themselves. Everybody. No one is not allowed to participate and be included in the vitality, in abundance. Everyone is invited as long as you show up, and we're all together, right? And that's the thing. If you want to be left alone and live, this is not a force anything. Full sovereignty consensus, full whole body consent to wanting to do something. Otherwise, you live, this is why it's a parallel track. And then the next generation after that may decide something interesting. That's the third generation. So, and then 4, 5, 6 generations, you're no longer passing along those generational traumas of like, I neglected you because I was afraid, or like I abused you, and all these things. It's these behaviors that get passed on from generation to generation, and everybody's got something. Everybody's got something weird about their parents that was like made them confused and hurt in the world or whatever. And that's the perception, right? And the reality. And so, without that scarcity, which is the fundamental cause of, I was distracted because I had to work, or I was messed up because I went and fought the war for the bank, and all these, there's been so much. So it's time for those to be not inherited and to pass on abundance and vitality. Wow, humanity's going to accelerate. And this is the other thing, is the key distinction. How we organize as municipalities, how municipalities decide to say how they want to market themselves, right? Cities compete with each other to be highest quality of living, lowest cost of living, best innovation and education, and lowest crime, and all these things. the best way to ensure that your city becomes the city of the future, right? The first innovative, the most innovative place on the planet. This is why this island, it's just interesting. These places, you know, the next phase is to share and be solutionaries because we have got a lot of issues to deal with on this planet. All the pollution, all the, you know, all the resilience efforts that we need to establish for humanity as a whole, so there are not actual pending global collapses. Which, by the way, let's go into that dimension where we go into a golden age. Let's choose that dimension. Yeah. You know, let's cause that, and that's why it's so important. What we're doing now is amazing. And then the next phase is like when you get people elected into the office, it becomes the public policy of the city to empower this type of behavior for those who choose it.
Travis, how do people engage with you? How do they get more information about this concept and start really working this into a tangible application?
Well, my wife and I are writing a book as well, and that we hope is going to be just inspiration and a tool and a place that will be able to have a life and then be reinterpreted and re-expressed in a way, you know, it's just a guide, a tool to help. And then also, I have an email. I have an Ubuntu email. So it's t.duncan, D-U-N-C-A-n, at ubuntuplanetusa.com.
Spell Ubuntu.
U-B-U-N-T-U.
T-U, okay.
Planet, USA.com.
And you are you're going to run for office again?
Yeah, and you know, we would like people to run on council as well, with a unified and uniquely expressed, of course. You know, and this is also holding each other accountable, having a strong foundation of accountability and commitment. Again, if you get because we use the tools of enslavement as tools of liberation, right? That's key. So if you get the majority on the council, you get 6 reliable votes on commitment to this real new sense of politics, the first thing they'll do is they'll establish those systems of transparency and accountability and integrity into the policy, the guidebook of how the government must operate, right? The operating policy. And so then every text, every email is live published onto a secure public database for everyone to view. And every conversation that happens inside City Hall in every single office is live streamed and put also into a voice recognition searchable database. So you can go in and type in a search bar, did the mayor ever say this? Did they ever utter this? And also at the same time, you can also submit your versions of public policy based on those things that goes into some sort of a political equivalent of IBM Watson. So it knows, it can ask it questions, and it can remind us of things that we may have forgotten in that one city council meeting, that these 500 people sent emails about, that there's already resources and places and things ready in motion, and those elements can be automatically
Wait a minute,
connected.
Travis. Talk about dissolving miscommunication here. This is scary, right?
Right.
I mean, oops, coming out chair. I mean, I'm laughing and turning inside because our whole system runs on all this crap of misinterpretation, misinformation, accusation, secrecy.
It's so slow.
And when transparency comes in and lets go of all that,
And even then, because in Austin you have a city council which dictates policy, makes recommendations for the city government, which is run by the CEO, city manager, and all the different departments, and then there's public boards and commissions, and so all of these elements being able to be held to those same transparency and accountability standards, because they're making the ground floor decisions, and I think it's about time that people start to say, wait a second, if we are going to be paying an extraction tax as the budget for the city, which by the way, is really selling ourselves quite short. Because if we're going to extract from people, instead of looking at our city budget as what can we create as something valuable to the world that will generate a financial abundance of a budget for our city, right? So if we're creating the solutions for the world in manufacturing context, technology, exports, things that are going to clean up pollution, to raise vitality and everything, we're still interacting with the rest of the world through the currency. Right? That's the key thing. In our city, we're eliminating costs of living. We're getting rid of bills. We're having 0% employment and 100% purpose. Right? We're relying on, and then we can start. There's all sorts of creative ways to get to a place where we empower and raise so much money where everyone can pay off their home debt, pay off their student debt, their medical debt, eliminate debt altogether, a legitimate way by creating so much wealth. Our budget in Austin is $4 billion right now. Imagine if Austin created the high vibrational social media new paradigm of the future. That's billions of dollars in some tech company. And it's the people's company where everyone, a network of coders contribute, and it's a profit-sharing thing where it's all the lion's share of the profit goes back to the people, right? And then there's a portion of all of these community businesses that go to a portion of the collective, and that becomes your city budget. You could be $100 billion. You think about all the hemp-derived solutions that can be made, and these are ideas, by the way. This is saying, look, if you are in city government right now, which somebody might see this that is, it's time. It's time for this to occur on a level where you can create so much abundance, eliminate the cost of living, and it does require a really delicate balance because the entities that like to control the resources right now need a lot of love and forgiveness.
They do.
And they need a lot of compassion.
Right.
And knowing that there is a way for atonement without punishment.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that, because that's a whole nother level of fear, is when this disclosure comes out of being punishment. So it's concepts that are able to eliminate every angle of fear. Okay? That's incredible. And that is what, to support expos and programs like this, where everybody's talking about these higher realms of consciousness, but also living tangibly that state of consciousness. So we're all going to be supporting you on everything that you're doing. We're going to get everybody stirred up a little bit and inspired, right, to make some of these changes. Do you have any idea when your book's coming out? Are you
2020.
Okay.
2020. It'll be ready for reading in 2020.
Okay. So we'll just have to have you back on for that. So unleash that. You're very generous, as I said before. Thank you again for your patience in our rediscussion of what we are talking about.
Well, we've all been there, and interacting with technology is interesting and fun, and imagine when we have devices that are built with algorithms that are based on the sacred geometry.
Right.
And as we just heard, the sonic geometry, as Eric was sharing just in the thing there, and wow. That's, what are but this is the other thing, is these computers that trip out and do these weird things. What are the shapes that we're building these in? What are the frequencies that are being emitted? What's the material? Is the extracted silica better than the silica?
Right.
Imagine when we, really hook up a crystal to a computer.
Right.
What's going to happen next? So these are the things we can unleash when we put a call out on a smart communication network to the genius people that live in a community. And this can be your community. And so that's the imperative is, look, let's just run as many people as we can, because imagine if, maybe it's not you personally, but maybe it's somebody that you know. Maybe they're ready. Maybe they're a good communicator as well. And willing to commit to that level of, wow, we're really out there and accountable and transparent. You know, you gotta have somebody that's ready to commit. You know, and so here we are.
Thank you again for your time. Thanks all of you for hanging out with us. We'll be back with you shortly with more programming.